everybody, and welcome to Wicked Woman. I'm just trying to make sure that everything's going great because we didn't do a pre-show. Valerie, how lovely to see you.
You as well.
It's like finally the band is back together.
That's right.
So welcome everyone to Wicked Women number 2. And as you quite saw just now, tonight's show is called The Other Woman. My name is Wendy Robertson. I'm coming from a little town called London, which the world may have seen this weekend thanks to our King Charles III being crowned and having a wicked party tonight in Windsor Castle. Did you see any of that, Val?
Honestly, I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw bits and pieces, but I didn't sit down and watch it.
No, not some people. You know, there was campaigns and everything against him, which is really kind of tough when they're like trying to promote the king and people on the opposite side saying, "We don't want you. You're not our king." This is my lovely co-host, Valerie Rasnick, all the way from Lebanon, Virginia, USA. And it's so lovely because last week the lovely Val wasn't at all well, were you, love?
I was not.
But today...
I really was not.
She's
won't go into details about that, but no, I was not.
She's looking really sprightly today, though. Good to see you. Let's see who we've got with us. Field Guy, good to see you. Viking of Rodin. Hi, Alison. Hi, Keith. Field Guy, Charles finally became king. Interesting. That's right, he did. How long for? Nobody knows.
He's probably thinking, damn, it's about time.
I was waiting. My watch had gone on.
70 damn years before I was able to be king.
So, Val, we did get a chance to do this last week, so I want you to just like do it a bit this week. Tell us a bit about why you're on board with Wicked Women and what was your reasons for wanting to come on board and do it with us.
Well, I mean, aside from being your co-host,
sister from another one,
always nice. You know, I want to make kind of a safe space to just talk about things that normally women are kind of shy about talking about or feel they can't talk about.
Yeah.
So if you talk about it out in the open, it's less daunting to say something about it.
I think you and I are both under the same illusion that there are so many shows out there, but we wanted to do one that was where women could come and chat and men could learn, if anything, from us. As I say, it's very much like Val and myself. We don't know if the third Wicked Woman is going to come and join us yet, but at the moment it's the two of us and we're going. We're going. Right. Just saying.
Just saying.
Just saying. So tonight, as I said, we're going to talk about, and the reason why Val and I thought about this was a great subject was being the fact it was the coronation this weekend. Probably one of the most famous mistresses ever became Queen of England. And none of us can absolutely forget that incredible interview with Princess Diana when she said, well, there are 3 of us in this marriage, so it's a bit crowded. Yeah. And I think a lot of people look back and go, how could Diana, such a beautiful woman, inside and out, and he seemed to choose another lady that wasn't physically as attractive, but obviously his heart laid there. What was your take on it, Val, years ago when you saw that interview?
Well, you could tell she was crushed.
Yeah.
I mean, and to really think about it, Diana was the other woman.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Camilla and Charles had already been together.
Yeah.
Before he decided to marry somebody that his family approved of.
Yeah.
So really Diana became the other woman instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
And I can understand, you know, her being as depressed and sad as she was all the time.
Yeah.
You know, knowing, yes, he's my husband, but I don't have him.
Yeah.
And I never have.
Yeah, because I mean, 19-year-olds when they got married. And I think also it goes back to what you're, you know, being the other woman. And there's lots of force against not being, if you want to put it that way, for not being the other woman, because it's an incredible hard life. It's not an easy path to take, but also some people do it, and I don't think they think it's going to go as far as it did. But obviously, in the case of Charles and Diana, he loved her, wanted to marry her, kind of dilly-daddled over it, and then the family were like, look, you've got to marry pristine, you know, you've got to marry someone without a past or anything like that. And so he did. He married, some would say, a sacrificial lamb. You're right.
My chair just scared me. Yeah, thank you. Tell me now. I think though, I feel kind of bad for both. Yeah. Because, you know, Camilla loved him. He loved her. But, you know, having somebody's family say, I'm sorry, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You know,
your name's
that
not on the
kind
list.
of suck.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of people, I think, give her a hard time, but it really wasn't completely her fault.
No, I mean, and obviously, like, when Diana died, regardless of the situation of how she died, that I think they played the waiting game to finally bring her in, so that, but even now there's only 14% of people that actually really accept her. 14.
Well, you know, if you don't really take her side into consideration, you automatically think Charles had Diana killed so he could marry Camilla.
I know.
I mean,
that's what so many think, isn't it?
But they were separated. They were not together.
No.
He wouldn't have had to kill her.
I think also as well, when we all look back and we were all in relationships and we go, the one that got away. And I think very much in that case, Camilla was the one that got away. I don't think they could break their link. I think he tried, but the bond between them was too strong. And I think that's what happens. There is a bond. If there is a bond and it draws you back as much as you don't want to again and again. And now, of course, she's Queen of England. And they asked her a couple of years, I think it was they asked her about when it all came out, like, one of these days, can you ever see yourself as Queen of England? And she said, you must be joking. And now look at her. She's absolutely made it. And it's interesting, we were talking about other women before we look at what makes the other woman. And probably one of the most common day one that people talk about is the whole Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, and Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that was
again, everybody thought poor Jennifer.
Yeah.
You know, and it sucks.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
for both sides.
When your husband comes home and he says, I'm actually doing a movie with Angelina Jolie, you do not want to leave the movie.
You kind of just pack it up right there. Just, okay, well, I'll be gone when you get back.
You don't want to leave the movie set and go, so I'll just come with you today. And, you know, because she's a very sexy woman. Angelina Jolie's very sexy.
She's not as much anymore.
No.
She looks kind of frail.
And isn't it interesting how it's gone full circle, as in the fact that Jennifer has gone on to be, you know, she's got this relationship with Brad now, which is kind of friends, and they've sorted each other out. And Angelina seems to have come more in the background and more, you know, taken a back step when she was probably quite the bright star. And but you know what it is, Val? Sometimes you meet someone in life and you are dazzled or drawn to them like a moth to flame. And you know you shouldn't go there. You really, really know you shouldn't go there. But you can't help yourself.
And I think it takes time to really think, crap, I messed up.
Yeah.
You know, I messed up a long time ago,
Yeah.
you know, and
And so
so,
when the other opportunity comes back, I mean, I was looking at what is the other woman, and it's basically, the other woman who broke up a marriage, the other woman who broke up a relationship, the other woman that basically caused, the relationship to have problems, because not every relationship will end from having another woman.
right.
Not and also you've got to look at it from both sides. I mean, there is the other man as well. Like, it's not just one side of the coin. But I think there was a very good film. Did you ever see it a couple of years ago with Cameron Diaz, The Other Woman? Did you see it?
The Other Women?
Yeah.
Was it The Other Women? I'm not sure.
Yep.
Will you?
I think it was The Other Woman. Basically, Cameron Diaz was having an affair with this gorgeous-looking man. She found out she was married, then ended up becoming friends with a wife, and then the other mistress, and they all sued his ass. And you just think, if only it was like that in the movies, because actually it's not like that. It's a really scary time. I know I speak from a background of actually getting to know someone who was coming out of a marriage. And when they came out, they were still married, although they were waiting to start divorce proceedings. And then obviously we became emotionally involved. But obviously he was out by then, but there was still this thing of, like, we were friends, and you look back and you just go, wow, didn't I like that fire?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, like when you first, like you said, when you first meet somebody, it's all, it's exciting, and then once you get to know them and you're with them a while, you think that excitement's gone, and now I don't want to be here.
Well, yeah, because also there's no guarantee they're going to leave their partner, or do you even want them to leave their partner for you as well, right? Because
I thought about that, and I think in one way, the stereotypical other woman is like the young, wannabe superstar, and she's, seducing the older man who's married and trying to get him away from his wife and all this.
Yep.
But it's not all. I think that's very little. I think most of the time it's the man doesn't tell them, I'm attached. And I think the biggest part don't know that the man is married or has another girlfriend or anything like that, and they're just as surprised as wives.
So a case of having their cake and eat it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not blaming men for everything, but I think a big part of it, they kind of mislead.
Yeah.
I had looked up Amy Fisher. Do you remember her?
I do. Yeah.
See, she was 16 when she began the affair with Joey Buttafuoco.
Wow.
That was in 92.
Crazy.
And then when she was 17, she ended up shooting Mary Jo in the face, just over a man. I mean, can you imagine going that far?
Remind me what happened in that case, because I remember the news and I remember hearing it, but what actually happened at the end? She went to prison, right? Obviously she went to prison, but is she still in there? I mean, I can't recall where she is now.
After being arrested for the crime, Fisher drew national attention. The Fisher family was offered $80,000 for the rights to her story. Let's see. She was convicted on multiple counts, but pled guilty on one count of aggravated assault and was sentenced up to 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Fisher served 7 years in prison at the Albion Correction Facility in New York. During her time in jail, Fisher claimed she was raped by a prison guard and pursued legal action for some time before they dropped the case. So she served 7 years.
7 years. Wow.
For aggravated assault. She shot somebody in the face.
That amazes me. 7 years.
Can you imagine having someone drive you to shoot somebody in the face?
Yeah.
And what makes them think that, okay, if I kill the wife, he's all mine? What makes them think that? It would have to be what he's saying.
Do you think that could be somewhere of, it definitely becomes, if you delusional, because I think most women have this kind of two-way of looking at it. He says he's unhappy, the marriage isn't going well, they're sleeping in separate beds, there's no sex, we're just like friends, I'm only staying for the kids, I'm only staying because of financial reasons, I can't leave because of the mortgage. They come up with lots of different reasons. And I think that women probably think, well, he's going to leave. He says it's that bad. Or then the other half says, well, actually, what if he doesn't? What if I actually fall in love with him so much that I hope he leaves? And I actually know someone quite close to me who's been in a similar situation where they have been involved with somebody. And the person involved is in a very unhappy marriage and wants to leave but cannot because of financial and children reasons and religious reasons as well.
Yeah.
And so it's been very hard for them to deal with this situation because they're madly, passionately in love with them, but the other half says, I feel so terrible for what I'm doing. I feel so guilty.
Yeah. Well, I looked up psychological effects on the other woman. And the number one is sadness.
Yeah.
Sadness is one of the psychological effects of being the other woman. Guilt is another one. Trust issues. Being the other woman in an affair can bring up a multitude of feelings, including sense of isolation, paranoia, distrust, lack of self-confidence, emotional stress. And you think, well, how many people are going to go on her side?
Yeah.
There's always going to be people against her, regardless if she was told that he was not married, anything like that. They're still going to go for, well, you're breaking up a happy home. If it was happy, I wouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I think there's many different sides to.
I think guilt is probably one of the major factors, because when you're with somebody who's still married but left, or still married and still there's that guilt of like, I shouldn't be involved, I shouldn't be doing this, I feel so bad because what if it comes out? And also it puts you in there always a very true saying that when a man has a partner or a wife and then he gets a mistress and then he leaves the partner and wife for the mistress, there's a vacant spot for another mistress to come along. Because if he could be unfaithful and cheat on one wife.
Once a cheater, always a cheater. That's what I've always heard.
Whether that's true in everyone's case, but I think that would be in the back of your head. Well, he left her. And he left everything going. So there's a lot of excitement, I think, as when you're in an affair, whether it's the beginning of any kind of relationship, but especially when it's secret, when you can't tell anybody and it's all clandestine and you're kind of like, oh God, and you're meeting each other. And I often think that there are two kinds of affair. There are the sexual ones, where you just, it's all about, let me get my rocks off. Right?
Chicken. Yeah.
and the second one is emotional. And I wonder which one you think is more powerful.
I think the emotional one, definitely. Cover your ears anyway. No, you drink water. I mean, anybody can sleep with anybody.
Yes.
There's not a have to emotional bond there. When it develops into that emotional bond, that I think is when, it's trouble. Because it would probably be easier for someone to, okay, I'll never cheat again, if it was only the sexual side.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be harder to stop if it was on an emotional level.
Because it goes deeper, doesn't it? The bond goes deeper.
Exactly.
Because, sex, as you know, you can have it and walk away and go, well, that was good, but, don't have to go around for round two. But when you really give your heart, and I think in Amy's case, being so young, and also she must have, I would imagine, psychological issues as well, because
Not before she would have to now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, like, would any man ever want to get in a relationship with her again? Would any man ever want to? Because I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to get into that, because I'd be thinking,
Excuse me.
and I think that famous, and I always come back to it, Fatal Attraction, goes to show that he had a great marriage. In the film, he had a great marriage. It was all going well. And then he met this woman, he had a great night together. He thought it was just a one-off. It was a weekend. And then she came back for more and more and more. And I think when people saw that film years ago, they were terrified.
Of course. I mean, you think, can I trust him? Is somebody going to come cook my rabbit? And I think it made every married woman out there was like, what you doing?
And there's a very true saying, isn't it? If you had your partner's phone for 24 hours, there would be no secrets, because I think everybody would probably be tempted to check their partner's phone, right? And go through. So who's this? Who you're talking to? We've all been there. We've all done it, right?
Right.
And I think that if you were to find that your partner was having an emotional connection with someone, I mean, what actually classes as the other woman? I mean, we're talking about emotional and sexual, but what would you say also classes as there being another woman?
I think it would have to be something where your wife didn't know, your partner didn't know about it. I know many people have like work wives, and it's their partner knows about it. They're friends with them also.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's the fact when one is doing something with somebody and the partner doesn't know.
And also when it comes across the boundaries, it crossed the boundaries of no longer being safe, where you're pushing yourself to the point of like, you're pushing those boundaries, right?
Yeah. I mean, if someone's, if a man is telling his mistress, well, as soon as I get a divorce, we'll be together and all this. If he tells her that long enough, she's going to think, okay, well, all I need to do is get rid of the wife.
Yeah.
And everything's going to be hunky-dory after that. Well, I think that's one thing that leads, women to do this is on a mental basis.
And there's no guarantee that the wife's going to go. I use these words, tenderly, but the wife's going to go. The wife's going to go quietly. and say, well, hang on, I've just given you all these years. But I'm also like, this is an interesting point. What drives a man? Because it takes two. There are, if you look at the marriage and partnership you're in with the woman, whether it's a girlfriend, fiance, partner, wife, whatever, what makes a man stray? Is it because they feel rejected? When a woman becomes, if there's children, perhaps more focused on the children than him, he can feel rejected, so he might look elsewhere. If they've stopped communicating, if they've stopped having closeness between them, that can make him look elsewhere. And then you've got the other kind that just go and look elsewhere anywhere. So yeah, but it's like there are those men that do have an affair because they feel so alone and they feel so rejected. They just want to feel alive. And
someone gives them attention that they don't get.
Yeah.
Or even if their wife does give them attention, they get a different kind of attention.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's different. It's not the same mundane life.
Yeah. It causes a lot of pain regardless. I mean, looking back through my own experience, it causes a lot of pain, and there's a lot of guilt, and there's a lot of second guessing, and there's a lot of like, I wish I wasn't involved in this, but I really care for this person. Looking back, I wish I'd gone down a different road, but you can't change where you were, and you have to live with the cards that you were dealt. And right. I mean, using another famous couple, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Johnny was with Vanessa Paradis, and some may say he had a complete brainstorm to actually leave that beautiful woman to go to Amber Heard.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. I think he went completely off his rocker, but it happens.
And look how that turned out. I mean, literally abuse. When he was, it's weird, when he was married to Vanessa, we never heard anything. There was no drama. There was no reports of anything. It was a very sort of normality. I'm sure there were issues and problems, but
sure.
But when he went, and she was a lot younger than him as well. When he went with Amber, it was I imagine you're right. It's that excitement. It's that she's younger. She makes me feel alive again. Whatever those feelings are. My own dad has had, he had various affairs in his marriage to my mum, obviously to my mum. And the amount of pain that caused, and also watching my mum go through it, although I was very young at the time, my brother and sister were very much aware of it. And, I find that my dad never wants to talk about that. He doesn't want to talk about, quite rightly, I suppose, what went on.
Well, I mean, I think it's embarrassing for them to admit that they had that moment of weakness or moments of weakness or did something that they shouldn't have. I mean, I know how it feels. So, it's almost like you have to separate the person from what they've done in order to move past it.
Yeah.
But, I don't think that you could ever really get into the head of someone who does that and really understand it. You may get the gist of it, but I don't think anybody's going to really understand it unless you're in their shoes.
There's a very different, through the generations, different ideas about what's right for a man to do. And I think, going back into medieval times, rich men or men in general, they had their wives, they had their mistresses. It was encouraged for them. It was accepted that they had a mistress. Let's look at one of the famous one, Anne Boleyn, who was, became the second wife of Henry VIII, and poor Catherine of Aragon, who tried so hard to hold on to her husband after like 17, 18 years of marriage, and after trying to give him 12 children, lost to another woman. And then he went on to do, other women. And you just think, well, if one's not enough, whole army's not going to be enough.
Well, I mean, on a very serious note, I don't think that, well, I would think that it would be kind of encouraged by the wife because she don't want to do it.
Good point.
I mean, me and them were just like, okay,
Yeah, lie back.
you really had no say.
Oh.
So if you had, it's kind of like sharing the load, so to speak. If you have 12 women, you're a lot less likely for him to pick you that night.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that that's one thing. I can't help but think that,
And except she Catherine of Aragon, obviously she accepted that he had mistresses. It was part and parcel of it. And there was the official mistress, and obviously he had an illegitimate son with Bessie Blount. But Anne Boleyn obviously is quite notorious. And obviously there is actual documentation that she didn't want to be his mistress. She didn't want to go down that road. And because she knew once you gave him the goods, he would be like, "Yep, next, bring
as long as you're chasing me, I'm okay. Yeah. But if you catch me, I'm most likely dead if I don't give you what you want."
But considering she was with him for about 5-6 years, and she didn't have sex with him in that time because she knew if she did, he would have been like, next. She must have kept him happy in other ways, Val.
Well, you would think. I mean, you would think. But like I said, maybe she was, kind of turning the lights out and getting a maid to come in there.
I imagine when
he stank. You come in here and do it because I can't.
I imagine when he was younger and he was like this tall stud. She probably thought, "Oh, this is great." But when he started becoming the big, heavy man that he started with the leg, with the open wound and you'd be like, I can't. How you could even imagine that, I don't know. I take my hat off to those women. They took one for the team, right?
It's like, love you, and so much.
But
he had open sores on his legs and was really fat.
Another mistress that obviously he then went on to have was Jane Seymour, wife number 3. Right. And he married her a week after Anne Boleyn was beheaded. Now, anyone who marries someone, going back to those times, he's like, my wife's a traitor, we're going to cut her head off. As the new wife, you must be thinking, he's going to replace me with another woman. And if I don't come into line... Yeah. And I wonder where women have this idea that we think we're going to be the one that changes the guy.
Exactly. Like, well, the last one didn't do what he wanted to, so I will, and he won't chop my head off.
Yeah, like what is it that we do that makes us believe that we are going to be the ones that change the guy? With us, it's going to be different.
We're delusional.
Yes. Or
Emily said, period. I mean, we are. I think I shouldn't say we. I think many women think they believe everything they're told.
Yeah.
And therefore, when a man says, I'll never cheat on you, you're the only one, all this, we believe it.
Uh-huh.
And you think, oh, okay, well, the last one was like this. I'm not, so it's not going to be that way with me. And it totally is. Totally is.
I think it's like, because I think in all us women there's a nurturing side. If we're looking at the man and we're thinking we don't just want to shag him and go, or we just don't want to have the goods and go, I think there's a nurturing side to us that we think, I can bring out the best in him. I can do this. I'm different. When really,
Well, I think a lot of times with those of us that are kind of empathic, we think we can fix them.
mm-hmm.
You know, we think there's some way that we can fix whatever's wrong with them.
Yeah. Phil Guy says, I don't think guys can be changed just like women can't. I disagree. I think everybody can change if they want to.
But they can't be changed. They have to change on their own.
Absolutely. You know, I think everybody, if you want to change, you'll do it. I think I think when women get with men, we can encourage them, or why don't you wear this top, or here's this cologne for you, or whatever. But you can't change the core of a man. He has to change that for himself. And I wanted to mention how women also get thrown under the bus, being the other woman. And quite a famous one for that would have been, well, two presidents of the United States, very famous, JFK and Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn, yeah.
And also Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton. Two women, different.
It was blue dress.
Terrible things that they, you know, Marilyn Monroe was known to have had an affair with John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. And I'm sure that went down like a ton of bricks with Jackie. But with Bill, it was a real sense that Monica got thrown onto the bus. She was really seen as the bad one.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they're not going to throw Bill under the bus. They have to have a scapegoat.
What was that famous line? I swear nothing happened with that woman, or something like that, right?
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Phil Guy.
Emily nailed it.
Phil Guy. JFK couldn't keep it in his pants, and Willie couldn't keep it out. Thanks very much for that, Phil Guy. Thanks for that point. And you know, I think
well said, Phil Guy.
To the point.
But I mean, you know, think about, you know, Marilyn. She was just as naive.
She was.
You know, and was taken advantage by not one but two brothers or more.
Yeah.
And Monica Lewinsky, is she going to say no to the president?
Well, she kept the dress, which was very wise of her.
I started to say, why on earth would you? Okay, I'm not going to say that in front of Emily, but why would you keep that?
Why would she keep the dress? Well, obviously, it was sentimental value. Right? Here's one that I wore earlier. I mean, Marilyn sadly died, or rather, some believe that she was killed, silenced. And I tend to believe that there's a very good case for that. Because they couldn't really find a very easy, you know, they said she had these pills or whatever inside, but I don't know. It doesn't make it. Something does never run true about that. And if you get involved with the most powerful man on earth, as a woman, what are you thinking? Because you're thinking he's, you know, with JFK, he's not going to leave Jackie. You know, he's not going to leave her. What was, you wonder what was going, was she thinking money, power, or was she thinking, I love this guy?
You know, I tend to believe that she really cared for him and thought he really cared for her.
Yeah.
Now, I could be very wrong, but I just feel like I don't think she would put her career and everything in jeopardy for somebody she didn't care about. You know, genuinely care about. Yeah, it says she had a heart attack at 36.
I don't I
Um,
find that very, very hard to believe. And
didn't
everything,
they? Let's see.
and they said everything was cleared from her room, and some say that she was killed with a way that they can inject into the toes or whatever, the toenail or something, so you can't find it easily. There's lots of different stories, but I think she was such an iconic woman. Whoever took her out, if she went out that way, they had to have a lot of reason to do it. What were they worried she was going to do?
Because, I mean, didn't they find all these pill bottles beside of her bed, but none in her system?
Something like that. Yeah, that's right.
So someone, it seems, made it look like she took a bunch of pills.
And some could say Monica, like, because I mean, she's messing with the same kind of power, right? And she stood her ground. I mean, like years later.
I think I'd want to go up against Hillary, just to be honest. I think that would scare me, to kind of be on the bad side of Hill.
As being in that sort of similar situation and knowing people that have been in it as well, you know you're not going to spend Christmas with them. You know you're not going to do birthdays with them. You know there are going to be many nights that you're alone.
Sure.
Anniversaries, things like that. You know that you're literally grabbing what you can get when you're with them. And they, that's if they're sort of still in the marriage or in the relationship. But if they decide to stay and you're suddenly like, how do you cope? Which I brought up some facts with that. How do you cope when you are kicked away? Because a lot of men get very scared when women start saying things like, if you don't tell her, I'm going to. If or maybe they'll follow him to see where they're going, or maybe
they give them. I think the other woman gives them an ultimatum sometimes too.
Yeah,
and it doesn't always turn out the way she wants it to.
And there's a lot of stalking these days on social media. That's another thing that people will stalk. Let's type them in, they'll find all the information, where they've been, what they do, and everything like that, because it's out there. So,
and you can get it almost down to where you ate lunch.
Yeah, you can.
So, I mean, it's, if you know how to work it, the system will tell you, everything. And you can't really hide where you're at, because it's right there. People can find you.
There's also that feeling of being alone, because I remember like hearing from, as I say, someone who's going through it, and they were saying that when the person goes home to the family, they feel so alone. They go back to being in front of the TV with a, whatever it is, and they're thinking, wow, and it's a very empty life. It doesn't actually go anywhere, unless because they then decide to leave.
But do you think that it changes when they do leave? Say they leave, and okay, now they're with you 24/7.
Yeah.
Do you love them enough
to go through it,
to deal with them 24/7?
I also think as well that that's when things come to the crux, is when you're with that person 24/7, and you have to put up with the warts and all that you never really saw before. You have to put up with all the side from the ex, and if there's children involved, they are going to look at you, and do look at you, as if you're the person who split my parents up, or you split my partner up, or whatever. There's the family and friends reaction towards you as well.
Yeah.
So looking at Camilla Parker Bowles, Diana, Princess of Wales, was one of the most iconic women in the world. And now I'm sure William and Harry, we know Harry did, but from what he's written in his book, but I'm sure they must look at her and go, that could have been my mum, she'll never take that place. And there's always that resentment.
Kim couldn't find it, so I was getting Emily to send him a link to the show.
I know with my dad, because he married the lady that
the other woman.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it. I found it very hard to have a relationship with her. She's gone now, God rest her soul. But I found it very hard to have that situation with her.
Well, you have to think, in your mind, you hurt my mom.
Yeah.
So, you have to, like I said before, you have to kind of take the person away from the action.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to divide the two. When you feel like it's a direct shot against the people you love, then it's hard to separate the two.
It was very hard because I looked at her for years as in, you split my parents up.
Right.
But actually, she was just the final nail in the coffin, because there was obviously issues between my parents. And I think as kids, you don't actually see that. As kids, you look back and you go, my mom and dad were perfect, but they weren't. And maybe you see it in different ways. But I think there was obviously issues there with my parents. And then one and another come along. And in the end, this was the one that we knew he was going to.
Well, and you think you made my mama cry.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing you can think of.
Yeah.
You hurt somebody I care about, therefore I don't like you. So even, if you had met them, at a different time, place, you may have been good friends.
Mm.
But under the circumstances, you can't get past that. You hurt my family, and I blame you for breaking it up, when it probably would have broke up anyway.
There's also that feeling of like, when you look at the children, you're reminded of the partner.
Sure.
And I think especially if you look like the innocent partner, if you want to say that, then that doesn't go down well with the new partner, because I was always reminded of that. Oh, you look like your mother. Oh, or you're like this. There was always that kind of feeling of resentment there.
Yeah.
Which I wish. And it was very, very hard to forget. And I think, when I was thinking about this weekend with the coronation, when they saw her being crowned, it must be like, wow, like she's gone from mistress to splitting up her parents to, over here she was called horseface and whore, and she had everything. I have to give that to Camilla. They threw everything at her, and she still carried on.
I started to say, I have to commend her, because she did not let it break her. She just kind of stood up and said, whatever.
Yeah.
It would have been very easy for her to just duck out of limelight, go somewhere, and never be seen again.
I think there's real love there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Love endures.
Yeah. And the things that you do, that hurt her, hearing all this stuff, but she endured it because she loved it. And that's what she had to do to be near him. So there's things I think that we don't necessarily think we can do, or things that we think we would ever do or put up with.
Yeah.
But we do, and we don't say anything, because that if we said something, it would mean not seeing the person you care about.
Do you think that when you're having an affair and you're the other woman, there's a pressure on you to give good sex, to be always ready and up for it, and to be the exciting one, and the challenge or whatever? Because I think there's probably a lot of pressure on someone to be that way, because otherwise, is there a fear that if they're not up to it, he's going to go back to the wife or find someone else?
Well, yeah, I think that, there would have to be, if he calls and I say no, he's going to go find somebody else.
Exactly.
He's not going to want to come back to me anymore. And, I think a lot of other women have the delusion that they're not sleeping with their wives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bull. They're getting it both ways, so to speak.
If they have the opportunity, I think they'll have it both ways. I think there are some.
I don't best way to say it, but
there are some that aren't having it, and I think that's why they look for it. And I think what happens if they get it? What happens if they get it? Like, as I said, I'm aware of someone in my life that is in this, and they are giving. What you're actually doing is you're providing. I hate to say this, you're providing a surface that needs to be filled, right? So they're getting all the pleasures of being at home and having the wife and family and everything that goes with it, and they're also getting you. So you're having their cake and eat it. So why do they need to leave the wife? Why do they need to do anything else? Because they're getting all their needs met.
Yeah, they have the best of both worlds because, they've got home plus, when they want it, they go get it.
Yeah.
And there's no ties.
But it's naughty sex, illicit sex is so more entertaining, right? I mean, when you're not supposed to have it, when you're got a few minutes and you're trying to fit so much in, I would imagine, and it's very powerful. It's like there's adrenaline rush on this.
But think about it. If you have quickies all the time, there's no real bond.
No.
You know what I mean? There's no time or way to form that bond. And I think that's a lot of times what they want. They don't want that bond. They have that at home. This is just fun. But the women think differently.
What happens if the other woman is a friend of yours? So imagine finding out that your other half is banging, as we would say over here, your mate or a friend, like Elizabeth Taylor did with Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. They were all friends. Mike Todd died in the plane crash, and Eddie was there to console her. I know, as what was it Carrie Fisher said, he comforted her with his penis.
That's one way to do it.
He comforted her with his penis. And I just thought, that says it all. Because she was, Eddie Fisher was happily married to Debbie Reynolds, or rather we thought they were. They were the golden couple of Hollywood, had all these kids and all that stuff. And then, Elizabeth Taylor, beautiful, one of the most beautiful women, turns to your husband, and the next thing you know, you find out that both your friends are having this affair. And he comes home and says, "I'm sorry, but I'm leaving you." I mean, that is like double.
See, that would be, stabbed in the heart and the back. Yeah. It would be, I think that would most definitely get you to a state where you could be violent.
Yeah. Yes.
I think, that's probably the line right there.
Yeah. Because can you just imagine, hi, hon, I don't quite know how to tell you this, but, and also, like, they also became, I don't think they actually were to begin with, but in the end, they all became, Eddie Fisher died of cancer, and obviously she split up with him and went on to marry another, couple of times after that. Like, but
Elizabeth Taylor?
Yeah, was it
like 8 times?
Was it 7 or 8? I can't remember.
It was like 8, wasn't it? I think it was 8 times.
I think Eddie was number 3 or 4, something like that. And you wonder what she's looking for. right?
I
Because
think I would have just shacked up. It would have been a lot cheaper.
I mean, and as you say, like, one person that I put a photograph up of on our video clip was Woody Allen. And this
Yeah.
story creeps me out because
Yeah.
Woody Allen was with Mia Farrow and they had a child of their own and they adopted. And I think it's Soon Lai, I think that's her name. Forgive me if it's not wrong. But basically, he went and shacked up with the adopted daughter.
Yeah, that's just creepy.
That's very creepy.
That's just pedo creepy.
It's just like, imagine as a woman, you're like, so hang on a minute. It's like, and to find that, and it's like she was the other woman, her daughter. She saw her daughter in all intents and purposes.
Exactly.
And the next, she's having an affair with her husband. That is crazy. That is. Says, I'm glad I don't have all the problems. I just keep it in my pants. Steph says, yes, you're right. They don't want the bond, but they tell you there's a connection because they need the connection to face sex. Bada boom, as Scotty would say. Field guy, Woody Allen is a pedo, just saying.
And I don't care how old his girl or his daughter was at that, when they actually moved in together. I don't care if she was 30.
Yeah.
Who raised her?
Yeah.
That's just wrong. It's just so creepy.
It is wrong because if you think about it, like, he's still with her. And then he went on to have children with her as well. So not only is his adopted daughter, he's married, he's then gone on to have kids with them. It's a very
it's awful
situation. Steph says, do a lot of men use the we grew apart, but we didn't want to get divorced. So we found a way to get comfortable. I think they do.
I think they do. And a lot of people don't want to get divorced because of insurance reasons.
Yeah.
Because of, life insurance, work. They both work and they both have everything tied together, the house, the bills. So they would rather just stay married and live separate lives. So, hey, if it works, it works. But more times than not, it doesn't.
Would you say in that instance, it's better to have an open relationship, but still stay married, than obviously go on and had an affair? Because, thinking about it, if you have an open marriage, you both got to agree to it, and you're both off doing your own thing.
Exactly.
That changes the dynamic still. There's still that someone that could come in and be the other woman because the connection and bond grows.
I think it all depends on the couple.
Yeah.
I think it found y'all. I think it depends on what made you part to begin with.
Yeah.
Of course, if there's something negative and you have anger there, it's not going to work so well. But if you have, mutual interest in other things and you agree, to have an open marriage, just like you feel free to do what you want to do as long as I know about it. Don't do anything behind my back. It's a difference, I think.
There was a good post on Facebook today, and it said there was a picture of Camilla with her crown on, and someone was saying, side chicks everywhere, take note, because basically it means that, you can get what you want being the side chick. I mean, Phil Guy.
I don't fault her for that.
Yeah.
I think most people are against Camilla because of Diana, because everybody loved Diana so much.
Yeah.
And, you think Camilla did this to Diana, but she really didn't. Camilla was there first.
Yeah.
So really Camilla stepped back, and allowed herself to be hurt by her love marrying somebody else.
Financially as well, you're really having to, I mean, you're grabbing time together. So it's like, if you were another woman, if you were the other woman, I would say that you have to get used to having time alone. And
Sure.
You have to get used to dropping your plans and actually getting to see them as and when you can, fitting around their schedule, being understanding, listening to them going on about this, that, and the other. You have to swallow all the things you really want.
Such a bad word.
Swallow all the things you want to say, but you can't say because you're frightened to say them in case they go, really? What, you're coming on really heavy? I have enough of this at home, and now I'm getting it from you. So there is that I didn't, or I'm not leaving just to have this. I mean, I actually know of someone who actually said, I'm not leaving my wife until I know I've got something really good to go to, because why would I? Why would I want to leave my home, my family, and everything I've worked for? Fair point. But he still wanted the cake and eat it, right?
I started to say, why go for a side chick anyway?
Yeah.
If you've got all that at home, why mess that up?
Yeah.
Just for excitement.
I can't believe I used that analogy, but it is true. Like, you don't say the things you want to say because you're like, yeah, but if I say that, they're just gonna go that way.
Well, you're afraid to make them mad.
Yeah.
Because you're afraid they'll leave and not come back.
Yeah.
Which is probably the best thing for both of you, is if they left and didn't come back. Yeah. But in your mind, you keep it, hidden because you don't want to cause ripples.
Ask any guy that sees what his answer is. They couldn't tell you. I need you to write that. Can you write it again, Phil Guy? Colleen says, I don't think Camilla ever stepped back. I absolutely believe that. I don't think she ever did.
But I mean, she didn't, throw a big fit when they got married. That's what I mean. She was always there. She was never out of the picture. But I mean, she had to stand there and watch them get married.
Yeah.
How hard would it be to watch somebody that you are in love with marry somebody else?
And Dinah was saying that when she walked down the aisle, she was looking for her the whole time, and she saw her with the grey pillow box hat and veil, and she was like, there she is. And she was thinking, well, no, I'm marrying him. It's over. And it just goes to show that, some bonds go much deeper. And it doesn't matter whether you've got a wedding ring or a wedding contract, or whatever words you want to go there. The end of the day is sometimes the power of the flesh or the power of the heart or whatever is stronger. And also, looking, there was one other I wanted just to touch on was Julia Roberts, because do you remember when Julia Roberts, she met her husband? I think his name is Danny. He was a cameraman, and she started an affair with him, and he was married. And it was a massive scandal because his wife went absolutely, quite rightly, nuts, and it was all out there. And they're still together all these years later. They've had kids. They've stayed together. He obviously left that one marriage. He then got into another one. I mean, Julia Roberts is obviously very famous for dropping Kiefer Sutherland, I think, at the altar, and then a few others. But what is it you think makes a second, if they do leave you, if they do leave their wives and partners for you, what do you think makes it a successful relationship with the next one, with the new wife?
I think it depends on the reason they left their wife. If they leave simply because they're, you're exciting and you're, they're in this little bubble, then when that bubble breaks, they're like, oh crap, what did I do? But if they find an honest bond, you know, it sounds bad to say, but if they actually find their true love, you know, it may not be the person they're married to. And if they do, then it's going to last because they messed up the first time.
And they've
So I
learned.
think it all depends on the motives behind it, the feelings behind it.
I think there's also a fear with men that financially it's going to cost them so much, right? And they learn what they've lost the first time round. So they're damn sure they're not going to go out. I mean, if you look at Trump, you know, President Trump, he's gone from, was it Ivana? And then Marla Maples. And then I think he went down, obviously, to, oh my goodness, what's her name? The lovely Russian wife.
Oh, Melania.
Yeah, like literally, is that, this is going to sound terrible, but it's like, did he upgrade? Are the mistresses seen as an upgrade? Because
I don't know, Melania seems to be an upgrade for the rest of them. But
she is, yeah.
But, you know, I think in his position, it would be so easy to have, you know, just anybody. All you have to do is say who you are, and people know how much money you've got.
Mm.
So I think it would be easy to have, you know, several different ones that are all there for the wrong reason. But it seems like Melania is not, because she's been there for years and they've got kids together and stuff. So
because
she seems to be on the right, you know, for the right reasons.
What about these guys, though, that end up having two families and two lives, and the women don't know about the other person because he's had one life with this person and then he's had one life with that person, and all of a sudden they find out, oh my God, he's had two separate lives. I mean, he's obviously very busy and energetic and I would imagine quite tired, but he's going from one woman to the other with two different families. You know, his dinner, his Christmas dinner, or you know, you're going between the two, and it's like, do you think that men? And I'm not saying all men are the same, because they're not. But do you think that men find themselves in something and they want to get out, but they can't, obviously? Or do you think they actually like the fact that they have the attention of two different women, and they get their needs met? Or do you think they're striving? What is it at the crux of a male psyche that makes them look like they want to go there? And give the wife
I think it's different. I think it starts out one way, and then once you're so far down, you can't get out. And when you try, you know, if you tell one, you know, one family about the other one, they're all going to find out.
Yeah.
And you pretty much screwed. So it's either keep up the lie or deal with both families, or ever how many you have, at once. Because, you know, I don't think anybody's going to come up to one or the other and say, I can't come back here, I'm going to stay with my other family. You know, they're not going to say, oh, okay, well, thanks. They're going to take you for everything you've got.
I think, you know, having been the wife who was betrayed, and also I've been on the other side of things as well, the betrayal is horrific, because you find out there's this other person that the person you love the most is talking to, having an emotional relationship with. I mean, you know, when you're married, I'm talking about when you're in a marriage or a sexual loving relationship, but it's like you find out the person you're with is sharing that with someone else. And in my situation, it wasn't a sexual relationship, it was the emotional one. And there was more than one, because sometimes more than one is not enough. So I look back and I think I can see both sides of the coin where I was hurt so badly and betrayed, and it's never and it's affected me all these years later.
Sure.
It affects you. I don't think men or anyone who cheats on someone realizes the damage it does mentally to you.
Well, they're not thinking of themselves, or they wouldn't have 2 or 3 wives and a bunch of kids, and everybody not know about the other one.
Mm-hmm.
They're not too worried about somebody else's feelings, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think it's all about them at that point.
I understand exactly where you're coming from, Carlene. I'm sure Val does too, because you look back and you think the betrayal is just awful, just awful. For me, it was like, what's wrong with me? Like what's going on? And the fact is, like, you know, when Randall makes this point, you know, he doesn't get it how the wife doesn't know. I think most of the time they do know. Actually, sometimes they don't, because if they don't change their character, if they don't change their routine, and everything stays the same, you don't know that.
Well, and there's so many men. I didn't mean to talk over you. There's so many men that travel for work.
Yeah.
It's normal for them to be gone for any length of time, as long as they call in to their wife or, you know, do everything that they normally do. She has no clue. She has no reason to suspect. So it would be easy for someone like that to cover up what he's doing.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about that. I was like, if you think about it, like the phone rings, the text goes. What if you actually know that he's doing something, or you've got an idea, but you're too frightened to say it? So he's got 2 women. One could be pulling him in this direction. The other one's too frightened to say it. And that can be on both sides of the coin. So he's got, the man has put himself in the middle, and he's got 2 women who are basically either going to rip him apart, perhaps emotionally and financially, and the other one is just going to rip him apart. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is a situation that goes on every day in every country around the world. And tonight, someone is going to find out, wherever they are, that they're the person they love or is involved with someone. What would you give as advice, or guidance, I should say, to someone who is the other woman?
I think it goes circumstance by circumstance, but, you know, I would definitely tell them to, you know, think about themselves. You know, if they're happy or if they're not, you know, are you happy spending every holiday alone? Spending so much time by yourself, just waiting for a little bit of attention from somebody who will just give it whatever he decides.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like they should find their own happiness and not wait on him to make them happy.
I think also, as you say, like, get used to being alone. Get used to sharing him if there's children, and an ex-wife that probably is not going to go away, and he's not going to go away quietly, and rightly, why should they? But also get used to the fact that you're also probably going to think, well, if he's done it to me, if he's done it to her, he could do it to me. But I also think build your own life, have your own life, be busy. Keep your social life up, keep your friends' life up. Don't wait for him to leave. You know,
and don't not make plans because you think he might call.
No.
You know, go do what you want to do, and more than likely the situation will fix itself, because he will most likely not want to be around you if you're not right there waiting on him. It's
very easy to be judgmental and think about the other woman being the most terrible person going. And that's
sure.
Obviously we're trying not to say that, but what we're saying is any kind of affair, like with the other, we're not looking for her, we're looking at the other woman, as in the fact that it all began with Camilla Parker Bowles. She achieved everything. She got her man, she got recognition, she got the power, she got it all. And I mean, there was a very famous saying that Mr. Parker Bowles bent over and took it for England, because, you know, he basically did. And then I watched an interview with Paul Burrell, who was Diana's butler, and he actually said he felt that if Diana had been alive, she would have been invited. She would have been invited to the coronation, and she probably would have been sitting there next to Mr. Parker Bowles, and they'd have probably come to terms. I'm not sure if that had been as easy if she'd been alive. I think it would have been a lot harder. But I think he says she would have been there, and she would have been like, you know, very proud of her boys, you know, especially, you know, William. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
And I thought about that today, and I thought, how many ex-wives or ex-partners would actually get on with the other woman, you know, actually in latter years, actually have a relationship of some kind. It took my mum years to have that, a civil one with my stepmother.
Right. Well, I think when they finally come to terms with everything and move on and be happy, they realize I'm much happier now.
Yeah.
You know, I think Diana, I can't speak for her, don't get me wrong, but I think she was extremely sad when she was in that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And once she got over the divorce, or, you know, being apart, I think she was much happier. And therefore, I think it would be easier for her to come to terms with it.
Yeah.
You know, forgive. And Camilla, I honestly feel sorry for Camilla, because yes, she did all this. She was in the middle of it, but how much did she suffer because of it?
Well, she was torn apart by the British press. People spat at her in the street. You know, she was hated. She was probably one of the most hated, and quite rightly, I suppose, at the time, because you thought, well, you know, I mean, Diana was really married to be some would say a breeding mare, and he, you know, I think in the middle of this, you know, there's always a reason why an affair happens. Something's missing, something's not there. The man wants his cake and eat it. I mean, also, I suppose if your wife or your partner is not very, you know, loving, you go look for it. So I hope tonight that we've covered a few things for the girlies out there. Steph says the wife needs to know who the actual cheater is. If the side chick is lied to, you can't place all the blame on the other woman. Absolutely.
Yep.
Because
I mean, I think there's too many of the, you know, those men that go out, take the rings off, and, you know, let's have a one night stand or an affair or whatever. Yeah. They don't need to know I'm married, you know.
Oh, Steph's friend has just come on board. Hello, welcome. You caught us just right at the end, which is really good. We've actually gone over a little bit over, but it's like, it's interesting that as we're talking about the subject, different points that you think about, and you go, well, what about this and what about that? And have you ever been the other woman, Val? Like, were you the wife and knew there was someone else?
Honestly, if so, I don't know about it. You know, I've never been through one of those, you know, married to one, him cheating, all this. I mean, I've been cheated on someone that I've just been dating, but I've never been married to a cheater. But, you know, the only time that I really think the blame should go to the other woman is if she is the aggressor. And it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still partly his fault. because he's not incapable of saying no, thank you.
Exactly.
But, if she pursues him, then I blame them both.
Because some women are very persistent when they want something. They will go out their way to get it, and they don't care what's in their way. And those are the women that you just want to round up and put on a boat to China somewhere. But, they give the rest of us a bad name as well.
Right.
But yes, as Steph quite rightly says, he can say no.
Yeah.
Queen says, my ex-husband had an affair. I hated the other girl for a while, but then realized it wasn't her fault. She wasn't the one that was married. My ex is the one that had an affair. Absolutely. It's a very good, and that's a very healthy way of looking at it as well, because, the other girl is single, and there is a massive, to get involved with someone who's married is like playing Russian roulette. It really is. Yeah. It's like, do you really want to go down that road? Do you really want to pull that trigger? Do you really want to take that chance? So my heart goes out to you, Queen. I'm so sorry to hear that.
But and I think a relationship can survive, an affair. But I think it too many times the affair doesn't stop. They just say it does. Or that one might, but there's another one. If I got away with it once, I'll get away with it again.
Yeah.
But, if you have two people that really want to make it work and they're honest about it, I think you can come up and get over it.
I mean, Scotty said, I remember once he said in one of his shows that you can get over an affair, you can get past an affair if you both choose and want to. Right. But getting over indifference and even trust, I mean, that's a tough one. Like, building the trust back is a lot. But getting over indifference, that's a very different one. Carlene says this one pursued him badly. And when it came down to choice, she had no intention of leaving her husband, just wanted the intention from mine. So obviously this is Carlene's talking about from her experience, that this woman wanted her husband and no intention of leaving. She wanted the attention. I mean, that's a pursuer. Like, so she
exactly.
Where are we? Rebel. I was taught by my mom that you don't have to trust the other person. You have to trust the person you are with. I was taught by my mom that you don't have to trust the other person. You have to trust the person you are with. But when they tell you they're separated or not happy, so they both pursue a way to be happy. Interesting comments we're getting for this tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it could be seen from any angle, honestly. But if you go person by person, and break down and like I said, take the action away from the person.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get over things or get past certain things.
Yeah, I mean, like when I found about my ex-husband, I have to be honest, it was it's a terrible shock to the system. You shake, you feel like you want to be sick. You are sitting there in cold disbelief that this is absolutely happening to you, and the fact that when you actually confront them with it, they deny. Normally, mostly they deny. It was a terrible shock to hear that, and the trust is gone. Like, and then you're like, well, I don't want her to have him. I don't want her to have him. So you're trying to but you're there. Then you don't want to get close to him again because you're being with someone else. It's a horrible feeling. It
comes down to you're not going to win at that point. And I think I used to be that way. And now it's, if you're going to cheat on me, you can have him.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't want him if he's going to cheat on me. I don't want him. You can have him. Regardless of my feelings, I won't have someone who is going to do that and think it's okay. It's very disrespectful. It's exactly right.
I think
And
also as you get older, you get perhaps more confident in yourself, and you think
sure,
when you're perhaps younger, I was a very different woman in my 40s to what I am now. Like I'm a lot more self-confident, but when I was in my 40s, I was very perhaps needing reassurance, needing. If I'd been now as I was back then, I would never have got into that situation.
yeah,
But you know, having been there as well, it's like I wouldn't go back in there for all the tea in China. It's like
no,
I
and
want there to be three of us in a relationship.
yeah, no. You know, if I found out, if I was married to someone and found out they were having an affair,
Yeah.
I mean, I would more than likely go to them and say, "Honey, you can come and get all of his clothes,
I mean,
uh, and take him. He lives with you now
yeah,
because he's not coming back in my house. You can have him." Because
yeah,
I refuse to fight for anybody. I think if you have to fight for someone,
absolutely.
they don't want to be there. You know, if you want someone to fight over you, uh, sorry.
Yeah,
You know, if you have a choice to make, that means that you are not 100% mine. Therefore, you can have him
and I
because
think also,
I don't want someone that doesn't want to be here.
I also think as well, it's about whether you're the other woman, whether you're the wife, you have to have that self-respect for yourself and go, I deserve better than this. And if he's done it to me once, he'll do it to me again. Or if I was the other woman, I'd turn around and say, don't you just want someone that's, and the thing is, the heart wants what the heart wants, and I get it, you know, I completely get that. But sometimes you have to turn around and say, you know, it's, if you go into that situation, the whole of your relationship is slightly tainted. It's tainted
Absolutely.
from the
Yeah.
beginning. So
Well, it's built on a lie.
it is.
I
It's
mean, from
not.
the get go, it's built on a lie.
It's not an easy situation. So that very true saying. There's three of us in this marriage. And I'm one of these things now. As soon as I think or feel, if I was with someone, that there's a hint of a woman in the background or there's a hint of something, I'm gone. It's like bye bye. I'm
But
not in.
on the other side, if someone is telling you I'm not married and you're seeing someone and you find out that they are married, cut ties because you don't want in that.
Good
I mean,
point. My recent situation was long distance. I didn't know he was married for a long time. Then when I found out he said they were separated and she was moved out, that was all a lie. I mean, that's easy, isn't it? When they're at a distance from you, they can have completely different lives. I mean, you know, the time difference, not being in the same area, it's all very possible. Wow.
mm-hmm.
We're so glad you could join us here tonight. We are going to shut down this part of Wicked Women and go into Afterglow. The Afterglow, as we like to call it. But I just want to thank everybody, and we hope that everybody's, you know, got something from this tonight.
Yeah.
It's a difficult subject. There's no judgment on either side, apart from the fact that we all think, you know, as women, we deserve to support one another and also to have better done to us, you know.
Sure. We deserve everything, you know, not half-assed relationships.
And you know, if you're the queen and someone else wants your king, it's kind of like, well, you know, there's only so many women in history that goes to show the king will want another. And I mean, you know, let's look at that. There's always someone else that will take your place, just like that. And also, as well, before I just want to say, this, where guys are concerned, there are women doing this to their husbands as well. It's not just one-sided, right?
Oh, absolutely,
there are women who are having an affair. Less likely, I would say, but there are women having an affair and having their situation at home. So there is two sides. Steph says, we all deserve a happy ending. Might not always get it. Anyway,
no,
guys,
but we do deserve it. But sometimes you have to make your own. And don't depend on other people to make it.
Yes. Anyway, guys, stay with us. We're going to go into the afterglow, but just Val, it's been a great subject.
It has. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm so glad you're here. I missed you.
Trust me, I
Anyway,
would have rather been here.
I bet. Anyway, guys, stay with us as we go to the afterglow. And here we are.
I had to plug my phone up, so I had to change things around here a little bit.
That's okay, Queen, you're quite right. She says she's her own happy ending. Absolutely. Phil Guy, happy ending maybe one day. Steph, laughing my arse off. So am I with extra whipped cream. Hi, Michael. Bless you, Miss Finn in the background. And then what do we got here? Queen of Hades. Hey, Randall and Phil Guy. I'm Kristen, aka Wrenchy. Good night. Michael, what did you think of the show? What's your point of view?
I was ready for your questions. I'm trying to be the male counterbalance at the end of the show. A good man always comes in last. But anywho, like I said, yeah, and like I said, these both know me fairly well, so they know that I have may or may not have put myself in questionable positions from time to time.
May or may not.
Oh, never, right? I'm not. No, sometimes, man, if his marriage is dead, sometimes the woman won't leave, no matter what you do. They're like, nope, you're stuck with me. So then you do go outside the marriage. Then you do have a girlfriend on the road for 2 years. And that becomes a surrogate life to you.
Yeah.
And
but when you think about it, you're not hurting anybody but you, but yourself when you do that, because it ends up, you end up screwed when your wife finds out, or.
Well, even after she knew, she wouldn't leave.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying,
It's like, so I get it. Some men just want the adventure that they do.
Sure.
They can't have too much of a good thing to say.
But I think
it's
some women are vindictive enough to stay in a marriage and relationship even when they know it's over and broken, because it's a case of I don't want you, but I don't want anyone else to have you. Or also financially, it's giving up that as well, right?
Yeah. When you're the cash cow or the golden goose, they don't want to see that leave, and they will play hell to keep it.
Queen, if you'd like to come on, there's a link. I'm sure let me see if I can send the link out. If you're not happy, she says, regardless of the situation you leave, you don't cheat.
It was my house.
But now, isn't there a way to go and file for divorce, and if they don't sign it in a certain length of time, they, if they won't sign it.
But then you got to follow.
So many. I think it's so many. Like, I don't know how many years, but you're legally divorced after that time.
In the UK now, they've brought in the situation of no blame divorce. So like you can start a divorce. There's no blame, and within 6 months, it's through, it's done. Whereas before, you were waiting 2 years to get the whole divorce situation, and now you don't have to.
Right.
So it's like I'm free.
Maybe some 7 years, I think. 7 years.
It's something like that. I know it's a long time.
So you could be stuck in a situation being held hostage with your happiness held hostage.
Yeah,
well, I mean, and think about it. I guess they have to make that for people who, like the sailors that get lost at sea. You can't just send a paper and have them sign it. So it's if you file and they're not back in whatever.
Oh,
Did
so
you say
here you
7
have-
years?
Yeah, you can have somebody.
Then you're legally
dead.
divorced, or they're legally dead or widowed or whatever.
I had this situation, and the other woman was more like the partner than the one that would not leave was. So it's so like I said,
I mean, I'm sure it would have to be difficult.
oh, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, when I came home off the road, it was like I was coming home to a stranger,
Yeah.
and I was leaving the one behind that I actually give a shit about.
Right.
It is. Oh, she said it has been a long time. Okay. Well, I said, if they have any questions, I said, I am the one. I've lived this, and
Mhm.
here, honey, sign this. Oh, it's not always that easy. No, it is not that easy.
No, but I mean, and also no judgment either way, because I always believe until you walk in someone else's shoes, who are we to judge? Because at the end of the day, every situation is different and individual, and it's very easy to judge. I mean, I was married. I was betrayed. I've been there, but I've also been on the other situation as well. So I see it from both sides.
Yeah.
And either side is not a nice place to be.
No.
And
No.
before the show, Wendy asked me about married women coming on to single guys.
Mhm.
I said, most times they have you in their phone as DD, and it's not Dunkin' Donuts.
I'm stuck in donuts.
But it's something other on demand. You know what I'm saying? The ladies are present. You know what I'm saying? But it is. It's
Yeah.
and I guess like Wendy said, they looking for consultant. What is it? What was it? Said something other with his penis. Yeah. Consulting with and so women, and it seems like the older I get, it seems like the more women are openly out here. Well, this don't make me happy at home, so let's bring in Brad, Todd, or whatever you call them, and it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past it's been mainly men,
yeah,
but
times are changing, honey. Times are changing.
but the the more, I don't know if you'd necessarily call it progressive, but the more women, they think, well, if you can do it, I can too. So
but
we
oh,
tend to do the same thing.
But Steph says, but sometimes they actually need to tell their spouse that they're not happy and want out. What do you do if you tell your spouse you're happy and you want out, and they don't roll out, or they don't console, defeat, or whatever you call it? Then what do you do? I'm kind of curious about the comments.
Well, because it's not always straightforward, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. Some people don't want to give up that situation, even as bad as it is. They're like, well, I'm not letting that go, so someone else has all the benefit, and it's very easy to say they should just do this, because in an ideal world, that would be what happens. You go home and you say, I don't want to be with you anymore. It's not working. Leave. But when you do tell them that and they don't leave. And with my ex-husband, I did actually do that at one point.
I did that also.
That didn't work either, and he was the cheating one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And their parents brought them back because they didn't want them either.
Sorry.
What are you looking at?
Valerie's about to lose it. I broke Valerie, Wendy. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here, you take her back, because I don't want her. I take her to you.
Like I said, and Wendy has heard that story. Because like I said, I'm very open. Like I said, and some things get talked about behind whatever, and I get asked a lot of questions, and I'm like, okay, this is what happened. Boom, boom, boom. Because
I figured that's what would happen to me, but it
like I said, not once but twice. Not once but twice. And I'm like, yeah. That was bad. That was a bad situation.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's not funny, but it hit me funny.
Do you think we pick people? Because we've all dated probably one or more cheater in our lives, right? Do you think we actually pick people and go, it's an unconscious thing, but we pick them knowing? It's almost like I often wonder, because I've been cheated on more than once in my lifetime. I'm sure you have, Val. And I'm just like, do we pick them? Do we really pick them?
I think in a certain way, the empath part picks the narcissist,
Yeah.
because a narcissist and an empath seem to be drawn together for some reason. They always seem to find each other.
You both could be lost at sea, and y'all be the beacon light for the other one.
The life boy, for sure.
But I think it goes along with, when we were talking about, I can fix him, I can help him. Everybody else couldn't, but I can.
The nurturer.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with that.
And if you find someone who, for instance, using this person I know, he feels very rejected, and for religious reasons, he cannot leave that situation. He cannot. There's no divorce. There's nothing happening. She will not divorce him. It's not his religion. It's her religion. He can't leave.
It's not her religion.
And she will not leave, so he would have to leave, but then he has to give up the children, and he has to give up the home and everything he works for, and he feels lots of guilt over that. So there's a lot of rejection there, so because they look to someone else to make them feel really great about it, but unfortunately.
And I get the whole narcissist from the guy side. I worked with a guy in the Army, and several of them, and one, he actually called his mistress that he married and had kids with family 2.0. I said, well, what happened to family 1.0? And I told him one day, I said, look, dude, that's kind of a douchebag thing.
Yeah.
Then I talked to another guy. He's like, oh, I got all these side chicks, and he was married. And he's like, well, you got to watch out, because 4 might want to take over 3 spot, and 3 wants to take over 2 spot, 2 wants to take over 1 spot, and 1 wants to take over the wife spot. But the funniest thing, he had a whole slide chart. But the funniest thing I ever saw, my ex-wife was stationed at a place I won't name, and she said, Michael, and I said, what? She said, something's getting ready to go down. I said, why is that? She said, such and such is pulling into the cul-de-sac, and when she pulled in, the other woman come running out the back door, and the lady was hot on her heel. Oh, she beat her like a Cherokee war drum.
Well.
And my ex-wife said, you gonna go stop it? I said, hell no, that woman's throwing hands like Muhammad Ali. I said, hey.
No, I'm just gonna sit here. When they tuck her out, I'll go over there.
Say, not my monkey, not my circus. But it does. And but what was good about that? After she got done beating her ass, she went in the house and give him some too.
Well, see, he deserved it as well as the other one.
I'm saying, it's like, you can't blame one party.
Right.
And
what is it? It takes 2 to tango.
That's what my mom always say, 2 to screw. And people always blames the other woman, but it has to, it's invited. And like I said, there is that oddball chance where they run you down and knock you down and sexually molest you.
Oops, I fell and.
Yeah. No.
What is that?
So look, what happened was, I was walking through the house and I tripped and I fell in Miss Jones's vagina. I'm so sorry.
Right, that's what Gary Fisher said, and they comforted Elizabeth Taylor with his penis. And I think that was a perfect way of describing the fact that, but one must wonder, in that situation with your friend, was there always an attraction there? Was there always something there underlying, and maybe you never looked at it before? Was it just the right moment, vulnerability, and it all fell into place?
Maybe it's just all the above.
But Elizabeth Taylor, I never found her that. Marilyn is a pretty woman to me. Elizabeth Taylor, I don't know how she landed 8 guys. Jesus Christ.
Well, I think Richard Burton was probably the love of her life. I mean, I absolutely believe that Richard Burton was a soulmate, twin flame, whatever you want to call it. I think he was. And I think the fact that to be with someone twice in a lifetime, you go back for more because there's something that draws you back.
That's another thing. These people said, me and her's been married 3 times. I ask them, the definition of insanity is doing the same shit over and over again and
expecting a different result.
Yeah,
and if he consoled her that well with his penis, I want to know what his doctrine was in, because right now school is kicking my ass. Just for real. I want to know how you get that doctrine. That's what I want to know. I'm asking for KB.
Reached Burton twice. Well, I think actually he left her. I think. Sometimes you just keep going back for more because you can't get enough. But I have to say, it's been a really interesting topic when we wanted to look at this. I hope you know, Queen. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story with us. And I really hope that you'll come back now that you found us. We're still pretty new. We're still finding our feet. And I'm just going to put this up because Steph has put this there. If she's amazing at sex and blows your mind, and you're supposedly not getting that connection at home, she don't have to be a knockout.
I guess that's correct.
Hey, they always said find an ugly side chick because she'll do what the wife wants. But I tell them, I don't know. If I even go out and pet another dog, I get the third degree when I get home. The queen is not having it. You better be glad your wife don't have like a big or a bath. This thing here. Like I said, I'll sit here.
She is the wife, though, isn't
Where have you been? Who have you been petting?
You've been touching someone else.
Like I said, Wendy sees a lot. Like I said, and poor Poseidon. But Poseidon tries to get on the couch. You look at him like, I wonder what the fuck you're doing. This couch is built for two.
Yeah.
And like I said, but it's not that she's aggressive with him, whatever. But she would. Then if I pet him, I get side eye. Really?
The moral of the story is, if you're not getting anything from the wife, at least get a dog and it'll keep you company.
Right.
All females are the same.
Colleen asks, where is the queen? Just before
we
go, you can see her.
Come here.
Make an appearance. My one is there.
Mine are at home. I'm at my daughter's.
Big stretch. There you go.
That's love for you.
Thankfully, my Emmy let me come and use her Wi-Fi, and Des can ring light and all that.
In full
somebody lives in God's country.
Somebody
else wants it, but anyway, no.
No glitches, no, So I may have to start coming over here twice a week.
I think you're going to have to, because there's no driving around the block. There's no I've just hang on a minute. And tomorrow, let me just say, tomorrow morning, and I'm just going to put this up. Let me put it up to show what actually, Val and I have a busy week ahead of us. We do. Let me get this right. We have Wicked Women tonight. Tomorrow, we are standing in for KB and doing the breakfast coffee show. Val is, I'm back Tuesday night with Scotty Roberts on Robertson. Val is back on Saturday night on her Facebook page doing, I think I've got this right, Myth, Legends and the Paranormal.
Yep.
Then we will be back next Sunday. But in the meantime, let me just put this little thing up and you guys can see what we're doing tomorrow. So no excuses.
Oh, before we get out here, tell them, hit that like button, share it with your friends. The algorithm.
Like, share, subscribe. Wicked Women is going to grow.
Absolutely.
Before we leave, just want to pick that up. Chief Wendy, put it on YouTube, please. It is on YouTube. We will be on YouTube tomorrow.
You know what?
Wendy, Faith, don't be worried too much. I love Scotty. Yeah, we're staying because Scotty's on lates. No, he's doing nights at the moment. He's on nights until Monday. Thank you very much. I'm sure Scotty will be amazed to see that. I am on Tuesday nights doing Robertson. I'm rubbish with the time, but I think it's like 4 o'clock and 5 p.m. Is that CST ET, and then 10 p.m. in the UK. That's right. And then Val, you're 7 o'clock on. Which one is it? I always get them confused.
5 Eastern, 4 Central,
Whatever it is, you guys know.
2 o'clock
Right in
California
the
time.
Atlantic.
But in this Fort Dog defense,
We got you, Wendy.
yeah,
Thank
this dog has meant a lot. And when you come out of damage and bad relationships, getting a dog is not a bad idea. This dog taught me how to care and love again. You know, this
Sure,
dog,
They do.
and
Animals do that because they give you unconditional love.
you know, they can heal a heart. They really can. And you know, a long time ago, Wendy said something. She said, if you've never seen a relationship between, you know, I walk through the house, that dog's right beside me. I'm here if I'm on video chat or whatever. She's always right there with me. She always wants to make sure that I'm in a safe spot. And you know, how many people can say that for their partner?
Well,
You know that, you know, yeah. And Wendy's got her guard dog Henry.
yeah.
And
Field Guy 316 also has a show.
oh,
Field Guy, you'll have to put it up there when your show is.
read in the comment.
4 p.m. and then I'm doing a 5 p.m. or was it 5 or 6 and then it's 11 and then I'm doing another one where it's like it gets so confusing.
Just be ready all the time, Wendy.
Just be waiting
constantly, just in case.
If you're on the Facebook page and you're on the YouTube page and you're on, let me just remind us, Wicked Women can be found on YouTube under Wicked Women 888. You can also find Wicked Women on Instagram under @WickedWomen888. Val Vrasnik, great name. You can find her on Facebook and see her show on Saturday. Fabulous. And then you can find myself on YouTube and also on Facebook with Robertson on a Tuesday night through the Scotty Roberts, the lovely Scotty Roberts. I just want to bring it up. And then also KB is every weekday between, come on Val, give the times.
9 o'clock morning, 9 a.m.
Which
Monday
is
through Friday.
2 o'clock, I believe, in the UK.
Yep. 10 o'clock Central.
And 7 o'clock California time.
Thank you, Michael.
Rando, if you listen to his shows, he never mentions that ever. Interesting. So, guys, thank you all so much for being a part of the show. Michael, I'm going to say thank you very much. Talk to you later and just take you out of the show. Thanks for coming on and being a part. Much appreciated. Val, as usual, it's always a pleasure. My sister from another mother.
Absolutely. It was great. Can't wait till next week.
Look forward to it. And also, we're here for it. If you wanted us to talk about any subjects that involves the girls or the guys just want to learn about the girls, we're not afraid to tackle any subjects that might be a little bit sensitive, right? So,
Right.
for instance, you know, bring it on and let us know. So, as I say, we'll be back here tomorrow for KB's show. I'm going to end it again with our little logos. But once again, Val, I'll let you just say your goodbyes.
I just want to thank everybody for coming and watching us and supporting our new show. And, you know, we hope to make it a place where, you know, you can feel free to talk about whatever you want to talk about. You know, if it's something we can help with, we are more than happy to help with, or just be here to listen.
And as I say, like in the immortal words of Jerry Springer, which I always love, take care of each other and yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, no other bugger's going to do it. See you next week, guys.